I'm Adam Burgess, Stafford and Stone Canoe Club member and also member of the Great Britain senior team. So it all began here, and Stafford and Stone Canoe Club, is really important to me all the way through my career, and it's still very important to me now. I always say, I learned the majority of what I know about canoe slalom right here on this river. If it's worth learning, then you can do it here for sure. So I started paddling with Stafford and Stone back in 2003, age 10. I was in year 6 at Walton Priory Middle School and started through a link the club had with the school back then. And I was doing lots of other things as well. I had something going on every night of the week pretty much, and slowly but surely canoeing took over, and now I'm very fortunate I get to call it my career. Some of my favourite memories growing up as a child of when I was training here on my own and just kind of being with the water and the gates. If I hadn't started canoeing back then, age 10, I literally have no idea what I'd be doing and what I'd be like, the person I'd be today. I think it's really shaped who I've become. So the balance of between studying and training, it's not easy. When I was still in school, I was very fortunate. I lived really close to the canoe club, so I'd get down here nice and early and train before school. I'd wait until I started to see other kids walking over the bridge at the top, and I knew it was time to get off and get dressed and get over there. And then training after school as well. But then as I got older, going to university as well, things like that. I was living in Nottingham. I chose to go to Nottingham Trent University, it's exactly that. It's a balance. It's the thing really, and you've just got to be really good at managing your time and really good at prioritising your sport at certain times of the year and prioritising your studies at other times of the year. I did my first Division 4 race here, I think it would be 2004, and I was almost last. I didn't get off to the best start, but then rose through the ranks, and I was 14, and with a double win up in Grand Tully, which was my favourite course when I was kind of coming through the ranks as well. Got a double win up there in Division 1, and I was Prem, age 14. So first experience of being on the British team for me was 2008 as a junior, and I got to go out and compete at Junior Worlds, Junior Euros. We're in Czech Republic and Slovenia, and again it was a steady start. I think my best result was 20th at the Europeans. Pretty sure I didn't qualify at the Worlds, and then by 2010 I was coming into my final year as a junior, and I went to that Junior Worlds as a strong favourite to take a medal in. Unfortunately touched a gate in the final, which knocked me off the podium, and I think I finished in 6th place, was my best result there as a junior. Sport's hard, and canoe slalom in particular can be really cruel. Certainly a lot more upsets and days that you don't win as days that you do win. There's always something that you can take away. There's always a silver lining and a good part of the performance that you can draw on. There's always, there's other competitors, so you can compare yourself to them, see where the time's getting lost, and that's how you do it. It's just really important not to get disheartened about it, and to just kind of, it's fuel for the fire really at the end of the day. My best achievement in canoe slalom was my silver medal last year at the Senior European Championships. That and being under 23 world champion in 2015, and the World Cup the following year as well in the overall top 3. I think those moments they're pretty special, and you've got to really take stock and appreciate them, because they're few and far between. So one of my favourite places to paddle is still here in Stone. Absolutely love it. Any opportunity I get to come home and come for a rip round here, I take it. In particular, those 2 gates just after the Pipe Bridge, iconic upstreams, that double up. I think every time I get on, I spend about 10 minutes just doing figure of 8s on that. Definitely learnt so much over the years doing that. I'd have done those thousands of times. Looking abroad, my favourite course is Penrith in Australia, mostly because of the heat, and I just love being in Australia. But also that place it's like a whitewater playground. Lots of waves, lots of features, but it doesn't hit your body quite the same way as Lee Valley does. That has to be my favourite. Training full time for canoe slalom, it's definitely not easy on your body, and I've had my fair share of injuries already. Thinking back, 2013 and 14 in particular, I lost a lot of time. In 2013, had a stress fracture on my spine. I think I spent about 6 months out of the boat that year, And yeah, it's really hard. And certainly then, I don't think I had quite as many tools as I have now to be able to deal with that. Definitely feel a bit of a loss of your identity. You know, canoe slalom and training for that is who I am. And all of a sudden, I can't go in a boat every day anymore, and that's something that's quite hard to deal with. I think the important thing in that situation is, you know, recovery first. Making sure you're staying on top of all the rehab exercises, any advice from physios, coaches, doctors, that sort of stuff. But also to kind of find a distraction, find something else you can put some energy into, because you'll have a lot of excess spare energy that you were putting into training that all of a sudden you've got to find something new. But it can also be a big opportunity to come back stronger as well. You know, kind of a bit of time off can break down some bad habits you got into. You can watch a lot of video and come back really motivated and know exactly what you want to work on to get faster. So I started yoga a couple of years ago, and I think that's going to keep me on the water for more years than if I hadn't have started. It's really good for my body. Every time I get on the mat, I get to kind of have a little scan through and see any areas that are a bit tight, a little bit niggly, and just work through that. It's definitely given me a lot more strength and control in kind of difficult ranges. But then lots of things as well. It's not just about the physical postures of yoga. It's the concentration and the ability to breathe properly as well. Yeah, there's so much that I'm taking from it. In fact, at the moment, it is more about the concentration, and it's like a moving meditation, and I'm really focused on where I'm looking at any given moment. And that's exactly what it's like in canoe slalom. At any given moment, there's a right place to look. And I'm cultivating that, and I'm working on that concentration every time I step onto the yoga mat now. Yeah, so I love the warm water, I love Australia, but I also really like the cold water too. Something I've been getting into the last couple of winters. You know, we're very lucky at Lee Valley to have the lake. It's nice and clean as well, and I can get straight in there after the session, and then I can get inside and warm up afterwards. But for me, it's a concentration thing. Again, it's like the yoga, you know, manipulating my own body temperature, using my breath, using concentration, and also it's one of those things, I really don't want to do it. It's not very nice, it's cold, but you know, I like to feel like if I can do that at the start of the day, willingly put myself in such a difficult position and deal with it and get comfortable and control my breath and can just take control of my body, then you get out with this feeling that you can take control of everything. And yeah, I think it's just really good for being a mentally strong person. So the weekend just gone, raced the Great Britain Senior Selection, and yeah, it's been a bit of a running thing the last few years, me leaving it till the final day, needing to perform to make it onto the team. And you know, those moments are really special, and it separates you know, a good athlete from a great athlete as well sometimes, I think. At the end of the day, on the day, it's what goes on between the ears that gets the results. And yeah, you know, I feel the pressure, I get nervous, I feel a bit sick, and I've got that voice in my head telling me that, oh, you know, what if this goes wrong? Am I going to have to retire? Or can I do that move? Am I going to touch that gate? You know, I get all these negative thoughts, and I just keep telling myself, you know, that's normal. And I listen to it, and then I kind of come back with a kind of a rational answer, and I'm like, no, you know, I deserve to be here, and I'm fast enough to win this race. And then I just focus on what's really important in that given moment, which, you know, on the water, it's going to be looking for the space between the poles, sticking to my plan, discipline, and to take pride in my paddling, to sit up and have a really good forward stroke. And that kind of just brings me in, and that's how I kind of flow and overcome it. In a year's time, I'm hoping to be preparing for the Tokyo Olympic Games, my first Olympic Games it will be as well. And you know, it's something that every day I'm visualizing myself crossing that finish line at the World Championships this year, having qualified the spot. Only one of us gets to go, and it's a really competitive field that I'm in with the other C1 men, which yeah, it's really exciting. It's definitely a good problem for British canoeing to have, to know that we've got 3 very strong boats going for it. And yeah, it's just tough for us, but I'm really confident that I can do it this time. Got some questions here from members of the club that were posted on Facebook last night. Thanks very much for those. What have we got here? Our first one is actually from my mum, who's going to look after Jorge when I'm away. bit of clarity there. Jorge is actually one of my plants. He's a Mexican breadfruit plant. It kind of has leaves that look like hands. It's really cool. But he'll be okay. You know, I'll find a plant sitter to come in and give him a water every other week or something whilst I'm gone. What have we got here as well? Jessica Kroom, how many hours a week do you train? So it varies actually, depending on the week, depending on what's around the corner. So, you know, in the kind of deep, dark depths of winter, it's a lot. I train 2 or 3 times a day during the winter. And in terms of hours, it'll be around about 3 hours paddling and an hour in the gym every day, 6 days a week. I can't do the maths on that now off the top of my head. But yeah, so it's quite a lot. It's like a full-time job, 6 days a week. Okay, many junior paddlers look up to you. Thank you. Which paddler was your idol when you were a junior paddler? Oh, that's a great question. I think as a C1 paddler, particularly in my era, we all look up to Tony Estongue and Mikhail Martican. Mikhail Martican's still paddling, of course. For me, growing up, Estongue just edged it. Just the discipline and the way he used his edges, I absolutely loved it. And I used to spend a lot of time watching video on the internet and then coming here and trying to replicate it. Were you scared about your first race away from Stone? And that's from Sebastian White. I think I was actually, and it didn't go very well. I remember that. It was at Marple, and I feel like, I mean, when I was there, I probably felt like the waves were up here. But yeah, I was particularly worried about the fast water at the bottom, and I actually swam. Andy Neve's probably got the video somewhere. I think I was out the boat before my head even touched the water. I was that ready to get out. So yeah, definitely. Have you had any injuries which meant you were unable to paddle, and how did you recover? And that's from Amelia White. Yeah, of course. Right away through my career, there's been bits and bobs. The biggest one for me was stress fracture in my back, but also both shoulders, neck, ribs, all sorts. And you know, the key thing is rest, making sure you wait till you're pain-free, and just following the advice of coach or any physio or anything like that you might be seeing, and just being really disciplined at doing the rehab exercises to get fit and strong and come back. And then to learn from it as well, try and work out why the injury happened and see if there's anything you can change to stop it from happening again. Okay, we've got one from Sarah Mockett here as well. How important is nutrition for the sport, and can you tell us a bit about yours? Yeah, so nutrition's really important to any sport and any athlete. You know, you've got to fuel yourself, and you've got to fuel yourself right. So, and for me, for my diet, the hardest thing for me is actually volume, is getting enough in. So yeah, that's the big thing. I think I tend to eat well, so lots of vegetables, lots of clean foods, don't eat much processed food at all, and actually kind of shifting a little bit, trying to eat less meat and things these days as well. I actually do 3 days a week vegetarian. I eat fish twice a week, red meat once, and then chicken or something else once a week too. But the timing of it is really key as well. So fueling sessions really well before coming in, so I've got lots of energy and I'm not getting tired when I'm out on the water. And then straight away after, within half an hour, making sure that I'm getting a decent serving of protein and a decent serving of carbs as well. Got to restock the muscles. And yeah, just eating plenty of fruit and vegetables to make sure you're getting all the micronutrients, all the vitamins that I need. Okay, next one here is from Isaac Wright. At which point in your paddling journey did you realise you were a C1er? I think I realised I was a C1 paddler pretty much when I first got in a C1. I loved it from the word go. When you first start out, it's a really exciting thing to put the tail down and do big turns, and in a C1 that's a bit easier to do because you don't have the legs in the front. So yeah, straight away I think I was probably about 14. Okay, we've got one off from my dad actually. He says, "Hi Adam, we love travelling around Europe watching you compete, despite the tension, but which is your favourite venue outside of the UK and why?" That is a really hard question because I love so many of the venues. I think when you just love canoeing, it's hard to kind of pinpoint where's the favourite place because you just enjoy it everywhere you go. But certainly racing on Prague is always really good. There's always a really good turnout of crowd there, and you feel a bit like you're in kind of a tunnel and the crowd comes up to the right hand side, and it's very intense, and it's really exciting. But then I love being in the mountains in Sao, you know, the clean air and the technical paddling on the course. Penrith in Australia, I've mentioned that already as well. I love that place mostly for the warm weather. And the last one we've got is Andy Neve. It says, if you started out again in C1, do you think you would have become a switcher? That's a big question, and it's something that I battle with a lot at the moment, and certainly talk about with my coach. I don't think I'd ever be a switcher, like a full switcher, because I think that races are often won with good crossbows. You certainly learn along the way that you can do some of your best stuff on the crossbow. You can be faster on the crossbow. You get more rotation through the body. You can bring more body into the moves. You have the addition of kind of the fakey sweep, we call it, if something's on your offside. And crossbow ups too as well can be really fast. There's definitely a place for switching though, and you know, it's something I'm going to be looking into over the next 12 months, I guess. I'll keep that a secret for now of where I think those places are. And yeah, maybe you'll see me switching at some point in the near future, but certainly not all the time. The next one we've got is from Thea Wright. And it says, how did you feel when you realised you'd secured a place on the GB team? Yeah, so, well, last weekend was big because, you know, to be on the team this year is what gets you in the race to be on the Olympic team next year. So it meant an awful lot, and there were times over the weekend after getting off to the poor start that I had where I felt like that Olympic dream for next year at least was over, and you know, that's hard to deal with, and the whole time I'm suppressing that and getting rid of all the negative emotions and trying to, you know, focus on what's important because the race isn't over yet. And yeah, when I crossed that finish line, I knew I'd done a good run. And yeah, I think I just banged on my boat and let out a bit of emotion. And yeah, you know, Andy Maddock interviewed me at the finish, and he asked me what it meant, and I really struggled to answer because it kind of, you know, when I think about the Olympic Games and I think about Tokyo, it's what I've trained for ever since I was a little kid, and I really want to go, and I want to take the club there as well. Everyone who's kind of been part of the journey, it's for all of us. So yeah, it really does mean a lot.